The little creature was crying, standing alone beneath a eucalyptus tree, trembling, its tiny round ears flat against its head. A baby koala, no bigger than a man's forearm, was letting out sounds that no one who heard them could easily forget. Soft, desperate, broken little cries, the kind that don't need translation. And then it saw him. A man, a stranger, someone it had absolutely no reason to trust. Without a moment's hesitation, the baby koala walked straight toward him on the open ground, completely exposed, in broad daylight, and wrapped both of its tiny arms around the man's leg. It looked up at him, with eyes so full of pleading that the man stood completely frozen. He had no idea what was happening. He had no idea that what was about to unfold over the next 20 minutes would be one of the most extraordinary acts of interspecies communication ever witnessed. He didn't know that this tiny animal, this baby no older than a few months, had just made the bravest decision of its short life. He didn't know yet that somewhere nearby, a mother was running out of time. Let's go back to the beginning, because to understand the courage of what this baby koala did, you need to understand just how desperate things had become. Koalas are not social animals by nature. They are quiet, solitary, and deeply private. They spend up to 22 hours a day sleeping in the high branches of eucalyptus trees, descending only when absolutely necessary. They do not seek out humans. They do not approach strangers. Every instinct they are born with tells them to stay hidden, stay silent, stay safe. So when this baby koala came walking out of the undergrowth alone, exposed, and crying, something was very, very wrong. The man who first noticed it had been enjoying a quiet afternoon outdoors. He had his phone out and had begun filming the little animal, charmed by its appearance, the way many people would be. A baby koala, after all, is one of the most disarming sights nature has to offer. Enormous dark eyes, a velvet nose, fur like a child's stuffed animal brought to life. But this koala wasn't posing. It wasn't curious. It was frantic. When it reached him and wrapped its arms around his leg, the man's first instinct was warmth and amusement. He assumed, the way most of us would, that the baby was simply being playful, that maybe it was lonely, that maybe it wanted company or affection. He reached down and gently stroked the top of its head. The baby koala went still. It looked up at him, and then, heartbreakingly, its expression shifted the way a child's face falls when they realize the adult they're talking to simply doesn't understand them. Disappointment, confusion, a desperate recalculation. It turned and walked away. The man watched it go, puzzled. His girlfriend, who had been nearby, wondered if the little animal might be hungry or thirsty. It was warm outside after all, and the baby was clearly distressed. She went and retrieved water and food. A kind gesture, a reasonable assumption. But the baby koala didn't stop, didn't look at the food, didn't acknowledge the water. It barely paused. Its dark eyes kept moving, kept searching, as if it was running some internal calculation. How do I make them understand? How do I make them see? And then it turned around and came back. This time, it didn't just hug the man's leg. It reached up with both paws and took his hand gently, deliberately, the way a small child takes a parent's hand when they want to be led somewhere. And it looked up at him, waiting. This time, something clicked. The man felt it, that shift from confusion to comprehension. The food had been refused. The comfort had been rejected. This animal wasn't looking for play or food or affection. It was asking for something else entirely. It was asking for help. He stood up. He didn't know where he was going. He didn't know what he would find, but he started to follow. And here is the moment worth pausing on. Because what happened next, in the space between the man standing up and what he eventually found, is something that should stop all of us in our tracks. This baby koala, frightened, small, completely vulnerable, turned around and looked back at the man, saw that he was moving, saw that he was following, and something in its body changed. The frantic urgency gave way, just slightly, to something that looked almost like relief. It moved faster now, with purpose, glancing back every few steps to make sure the man was still there. The baby koala had decided, against every instinct it possessed, to believe that this large, strange, unfamiliar creature could help. And the man, to his enormous credit, had decided to believe the koala knew something he didn't. And as the man followed this tiny ambassador through the grass, step by step, something in him understood the weight of what was being asked. He kept pace. He didn't rush. He followed. 10 minutes later, they found her. The mother koala was tangled in a soccer goal net, the kind left outdoors in backyards and public parks, innocent-looking to human eyes and lethal to wildlife. She had become hopelessly ensnared, The thin cords twisted around her limbs and body in a way that prevented her from moving in any direction without tightening the trap further. She was exhausted. She had been struggling for who knows how long, and she was completely, utterly stuck. The man stopped walking. The pieces fell into place all at once. The crying, the clinging, the refusal of food, the desperate hand-holding, the leading, all of it. Every strange and urgent behavior that had confused him suddenly made perfect, heartbreaking sense. The baby hadn't been lonely. The baby hadn't been hungry. The baby had watched its mother become trapped, had realized it could not free her alone, and had gone looking for help. It had approached a human, the most frightening thing in its small world, and had tried again and again in every way it could think of to communicate a single desperate message. My mother needs you. Please, follow me. His girlfriend didn't hesitate. She ran for a pair of scissors. What happened in the next 10 minutes was quiet and careful and profound. The woman knelt beside the mother koala and began to cut. And here is the thing that will stay with you long after this story ends. The mother koala let her. This wild animal, exhausted and frightened and in pain, held still. When the woman came close, she didn't thrash or scratch or cry out. She lowered her head, as if she understood that what was coming would help her. Strand by strand, the net came free. 10 minutes after they began, the mother koala stepped out of the last loop of cord and onto solid ground. For a moment, she was still. Then, as if remembering something urgent, she turned and she ran. She ran straight to her baby. The baby koala, who had waited and watched the entire rescue, bounded toward her. And when they reached each other, the baby climbed up and pressed itself into its mother's fur, holding on with every ounce of strength in its tiny body. The mother curved around it, and they were whole again. The man walked with them for another 10 minutes, just to be sure, just to see them safely away from the roads and the nets and the dangers of open ground. And then the mother koala stopped. She turned around. She looked at him, this stranger who had followed a small and desperate guide through the grass, and she held his gaze for a long, quiet moment. Maybe she was saying thank you. Maybe she was saying we're all right now. Maybe she was saying both. Maybe she was saying something that human language doesn't have a word for. And then she turned, with her baby clinging to her back, and walked home. Animals feel more than we give them credit for. They love more than we remember. And sometimes in moments of impossible desperation, they reach across the enormous distance between their world and ours, and they ask us to be better than our fear. A baby koala, alone and terrified, decided to trust a stranger with the most precious thing in her world. All he had to do was pay attention. All he had to do was follow. May we all have the wisdom to follow when something small and brave is trying to lead us somewhere important.